This weekend marks 3 years since a fire ripped through Grenfell Tower in London, claiming the lives of 72 people. The tragedy prompted a criminal investigation, a public inquiry and promises that other buildings would be made safe. But 36 months on, 2,000 blocks are still covered in dangerous cladding, leaving thousands of residents sleeping in potential fire traps every night. Catherine Jacob reports.
It's nearly 3 years since Grenfell. And yet across the country, thousands of residents are still living in buildings deemed unsafe as they're coated in flammable cladding. Among them Natalia, who's 6 months pregnant, and a leaseholder at this high-rise block in Leeds. Preparatory work to remove the cladding's finally just begun, but living in a building that's been declared unsafe with mounting monthly costs for interim fire safety measures has taken its toll.
Something that's always at the back of your mind, especially in my position, you know, being due to give birth in less than 3 months now. What if I have to evacuate the building with a newborn baby? It's scary.
The building management group told us our residents' safety is paramount and we're working to ensure that work which started last week is completed as quickly as possible. The latest government figures show 455 buildings were clad like Grenfell in ACM or aluminium composite material. 300 have yet to have it removed. But it's believed there could be some 1,700 other buildings containing other types of flammable materials. For leaseholder Rachel Loftus, the delays on removing cladding from her Leeds building block have cost her £10,000 so far in extra fire safety measures.
Timber cladding that comes round.
She isn't surprised that a new survey of residents living in at-risk buildings has shown 90% said their mental health had deteriorated as a direct result.
I think it has to be a wake-up call that 1 in 5 people said that they'd thought about suicide or self-harm. That's a shocking statistic, and it's something that we really do have to do something about, because I think the mental health impact of this cladding is probably as dangerous to people's lives as the actual impact of the cladding.
My building's got exactly the same type of material on as Grenfell.
Will Martin leads the UK Cladding Action Group and authored the residents' mental health report.
The fact that 300 buildings today have still got the Grenfell material on is a massive sign of disrespect to those people who lost their lives at Grenfell. The fact that the pace of this remediation is so slow and that we're still having to fight every single day for a basic human right, which is to live in a safe house.
3 years on, the government admits there is much still to be done. And those living in potential fire traps are leading calls for extra funding to speed up work and allow them to feel safe in their own homes. Catherine Jacob, 5 News.
Well, of course, since lockdown began, residents have had to spend even more time in those homes, which, as we heard, is a major source of fear and anxiety. Well, Priyanka Abbey joins me now in her apartment, where the cladding insulation does not comply with building regulations. Priyanka, thank you so much for joining us. Not sure if you heard the piece we just played, but we got a real good idea in terms of the mental impact living in a property that doesn't comply with safety standards is like. Just tell us about your experience.
I mean, the last few months have been very hard, particularly if you think about it, lockdown was there to keep us safe. I've been in lockdown with my son in a home that is combustible, that could go up any time into flames, and potentially we would not make it out in time. Anxiety levels are over the roof, really sleeplessness is really one of the things you worry constantly, and just this constant fear ongoing to be locked up in a home that's not safe. So yeah, the last few months have been very stressful.
So I understand that you have your own process in terms of the people in the building, have your own process to watch over each other, to protect each other should the worst happen. Just explain that to our audience, please.
So we do have a waking watch in place. Now, how that looks like, there is externally 2 people in the building who keep making rounds of the building. If there is a fire, anything is spotted, they would need to knock on each door. There's over 100 flats to make sure that each family makes it out safely on time, which is obviously very worrying. They keep patrolling the building, which is great. But if you think about it, every 15 minutes you hear these steps and you think, okay, are they going to knock on my door? Are they not knocking on my door? So it's just this continuous fear, and you're really abandoned. There's no one out there to help you and assist you. It's quite difficult, to say the least.
So every night, it sounds like literally you're still living in fear if the worst should happen. What is going on? What have you been told? What needs to be done to make sure your building is safety compliant?
Well, the cladding itself, there's external factors that needs to be changed. Within the building, there's some other work that needs to be done in terms of what the owner of the building is telling us. They're just saying it will need time. They'll let us know if they are successful to apply for the funding that the Chancellor announced earlier this year. But it all depends. So in the meantime, it's just expected that it's fine for us to live in a home that is not safe enough to get a mortgage on, but it's safe enough for us to live with our children and our families.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they told us as well, Priyanka. Five News did get in touch with One Housing Group, which are the freeholders of your building. They told us, we do understand the frustration and worry that our residents find themselves in over cladding on their buildings. This is a national issue and is affecting all landlords. Now, in terms of Rivington, we are continuing to do the necessary works with qualified fire professionals and in conjunction with Berkshire Fire Brigade. We are currently looking at all options in terms of the Building Safety Fund, as well as awaiting details on how to apply for funding to cover leasehold costs with the government, which the government will set out in July. Are you satisfied with that?
I'm afraid not. We had a tragedy 3 years ago. What are we waiting for? There is a public health crisis. Majority of leaseholders are stating that they're anxious. They have suicidal thoughts. They don't know how to face their tomorrow. If tomorrow another Grenfell tragedy strikes, who will take responsibility? It's just not acceptable. 3 years on, there's thousands of buildings that are still not safe.
Well, Priyanka, do keep in touch with 5 News. Let us know how you get on. But thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.